Warm welcome to Storage Area Network. I am Lokesh MR, Professor Computer Science and Engineering. I am handling this subject along with Professor Amrut, Information Science and Engineering. So last few sessions we have started with Storage Area Network subjects. In that we have completed all the 4 modules. In each module we have each objective of a Storage Area Network. In the first module we have discussed about what is mean by data and what do you mean by informations, how do we convert our data into an informations, and what is the importance of informations in today's world, and how that informations will be shared among the different devices, and how that information is being stored, that we have discussed in the first module. And along with that we have understood what are the infrastructures we have used for storing our information in the data centers, and we have understood what do you mean by host and what do you mean by data centers, and what are the intermediate devices as well as hardware devices as well as the software devices which we have used in the communications, storing our information in the data centers, that we have discussed in the first module. In the second module we have discussed about networking of host machine as well as the data centers. That means intermediate devices which we are using for communications between the host machine as well as the data centers. That means the infrastructures of a storage area network we have discussed, starting with what do you mean by fiber channel, okay, and what do you mean by optical fibers, and what do you mean by IP over optical fibers, like that. The connections between the host machine as well as the data centers through wired as well as the wireless, that we have discussed in the second module, with various topology of connecting between the host machine as well as the data centers, and intermediate devices starting from Ethernet and then switches, hub, gateways, like that, and how they are interconnecting between the host machines as well as the data centers, that we have discussed about in the module 2. That means the infrastructure, storage area network infrastructures, which we have discussed in the second module. In the third module we discussed about the management of storage area networks. So while performing the management activities, we need to perform a recovery operations, and we need to discuss about the business continuity model, and we need to discuss about business continuity model of storage area networks, and we need to discuss about storage archive. That means the unfrequently used data needs to be stored in the tapes drive, and we have discussed about how do we perform a backups, okay, how do we recover the backups, like that, everything in how do we measure the faults, disasters occurs in the storage area network, how do we manage our storage area networks needs to be providing to the host machines without any disturbance, what is the risk factors, risk analysis, which we have done it in the storage area network, that we have discussed in the third module. In the fourth module we discuss about service oriented infrastructures. So we slowly convert our traditional storage area network into a service oriented storage area network. It is nothing but the cloud computing, and we discuss about cloud computing can be divided into different 3 categories, starting from infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, and software as a services, like that. And we discuss about different tiers of services which we are getting from the storage area network as a cloud services. Along with that we understood how do we deploy our storage area network with respect to the requirements of the customers, okay, in terms of public cloud and in terms of private clouds, in terms of hybrid clouds, and what is the advantages of making our storage area network as a public cloud and making our storage area network as a private cloud. And if you convert our use both the services, cloud service, public cloud and private cloud, and make it an hybrid services, how do we use it, and what are the advantages of converting our normal storage area network into a cloud storage area network that we have discussed in the fourth module. In the fifth module, we concentrate on security. Okay, how do we perform a security operations in the storage area network? How do we perform a security operations in a storage area network? So we discuss about the framework. How do we perform a framework for making our storage area network into a secured storage area network. So for that we need to formulate the framework along with the operations, something like security operations. We need to consider all the security operations while we are storing the information. That information is a private information, customer informations. How do we encrypt our data, okay, in the data and store the data in the data centers, okay, and what are the policies we are forming to secure our data, that we need to understand. Not only the data, we need to secure it while we are performing the security operations. We need to identify the possible threats which is occurs while forming a security, okay, possible threats, okay. So what threads means? Thread means the abnormality operations occurs while we are performing some operations, okay. So we have defined few things, okay. Whenever we are performing a security operations, we get some abnormal activities. That abnormal activities has to be determined, and we need to take some countermeasures, okay. We need to take some countermeasures for identifying which are the operations are threats, or abnormal activities in the storage area networks. So those things we need to concentrate. So while we are defining these operations, so identifying the threats in the storage area networks and performing a countermeasures for avoiding a threats in the storage area networks, we need to use some security algorithms, okay, security procedures. We need to follow some security procedures, and if it occurs, okay, if threat occurs in the storage area networks, how do we overcome it? How do we tackle those things? How do we get a solutions for the protecting our data in the data centers? Okay, that we need to look into it by using a countermeasures. Not only we are concentrating securing our data which is stored in the data centers, the infrastructures which we are using for performing a storage area networks, for that also we need to find the security solutions, okay. We need to find the security solutions for the infrastructures which we have used for developing a storage area networks. That means in the fiber channel storage area networks also we need to follow some security solutions, okay. And not only that, we need to identify the security solutions while we are performing a storage area network in terms of wireless storage area network. That means by using an internet storage area network. So we know that when we can perform a networking operations, okay, connectivity between the host machine as well as a data centers through the wired as well as through the wireless, okay. For these two purposes also we need to identify the security solutions. Not only with the data which we are storing, we need to perform a protections. So we need to protect our infrastructures also. Infrastructure used for developing the storage area networks, for that also we need to perform the operations that we discuss in these things. So, and while we are connecting the data centers along with the host machines, we use some wired networks and wireless networks Also we use some network attached systems. Okay, network attached systems. Instead of connecting directly to the IP networks, first we connect all the informations to the storage area network attached systems, and we perform the security operations. Through all these, how do we give a security solutions that we are looking in this module. Along with that, we understand how do we perform a security operations in the virtualized environments. Okay, virtualized environment, because all the things which we are doing so will be done along with both in the physical infrastructure as well as virtual infrastructures. Whenever the connections is done along with the virtual infrastructures, how do we give a security solutions for the virtualized infrastructures, that also we discuss. Not only that, so in cloud environment, so nowadays we are not getting the investing storage area networks by own. We are getting a services from the cloud environment. Okay, cloud environment. So how do we perform a security operations in the cloud environment? That also we are discussing in this section. Along with that, in this module, okay, along with that, we identify some softwares. Okay, we are identifying some softwares for developing a security features. So what are the softwares? Some management softwares of the storage area networks. Okay, security storage area networks, we management softwares we are developing it. These management software will perform the operations of monitoring the infrastructures. Not only the infrastructures, even the data is also being monitored. So it will be managed. While it is managing, it will perform a security of all the content which is available in the storage area networks will be managed. So for that, we need to identify some operations. Okay, whether these monitoring operations is done through the virtualized environments, or the monitoring will be done by the traditional classical environment. Traditional classical environment means like storage area networks, actual storage area networks along with the physical infrastructures. So the monitoring softwares, the monitoring management softwares will be developed for virtual environment as well as storage environments is one of the content we are discussing, along with the understanding of the frameworks and threads and countermeasures taken care in the infrastructures. This is one part. Okay, this is the second part we discuss in this module. And the third module we discuss about information life cycle management and storage tiers. Okay, information life cycle management. Okay, whenever we sharing our informations in the storage area networks, so we need to follow some procedures. Okay, some life cycles. So when it has been arised, okay, and when the data is being managed, at what stages we need to manage, like that we identify the information life cycle management. We call it as ILM for managing the secured infrastructures as well as securing the data. Okay, that is one point. The second point is regarding storage tiers. Okay, what are the how do we store the informations in the data centers? Okay, what different types of tiers we are using for storing the data centers, and also we understand some cloud service management activities. So we have told that so many issues has been arise whenever we go for the cloud computings. So we need to give a secured the service providers should give a security while we are accessing the services from the service providers. Okay, so what are the security services has been provided as a cloud security services will be learned in these modules. Okay, in this module, security management activities are being learned in these modules. So like that, the whole fifth modules will be classified in terms of understanding what do you mean by framework, security frameworks, what are the main objective of security frameworks. Along with that, we are understanding what do you mean by threats and countermeasures. So these threats and countermeasures is nothing but identifying the threats occurs in the storage area networks, and how do we overcome it through some security policies and security measurements in terms of solutions for the security, both in the wired infrastructures and the wireless infrastructures, as well as the storage area network infrastructures, like that. This is one part. Second part is, so how do we perform a monitoring softwares, okay, so that it will monitor all the activities. If any defects occurs in the storage area networks, will be rectified and it will be recalled by and it will be intimated to the people who is managing the infrastructures. Okay, that we are understanding in these sessions, and then we are understanding what are the monitoring activities is being done at the virtual environment as well as cloud classical storage area environment. And then we discuss about information lifecycle management. So, and different tiers of information lifecycle managements and cloud service activities occurs in the infrastructure management, that we will be discussing. Okay, so now let us discuss about what do you mean by security framework. So that is our second objective of these sessions. After getting an overview of this module, next we need to understand the security frameworks in this module. Okay, so whenever we discuss about the security framework, so we have to identify our security framework in terms of information security. Okay, in terms of information security. Okay, information security framework. Okay, information security framework. These information security frameworks should be built in for any storage area networks. Okay, so storage area networks, it should be built in. So assume that I am taking a storing our information in the data centers. So this should be built in. Okay, built in the sense that we need to follow some security goals. We need to follow some security goals. So what are the security goals? Security goals means we need to perform a confidentiality of the data. Okay, confidentiality of the data. Confidentiality means like no other person no unauthorized person should access the data. Only authorized person should access the data. That is the meaning of confidentialities. Okay, that means every person who wants to access the information should have a authority to access the data in terms of giving an authority keys, okay, and personal passwords for accessing the data. So that is called as confidentiality. Confidentiality means all the data which we are accessing in the data center should be secured, and the relevant persons only needs to be access the data. So that is one of the goal of the security. The second goal of the security is integrity. So what do you mean by integrity? Integrity means whenever we are accessing the information, this accessed information needs to be followed that no one should change the originality of the data, So that is the meaning of integrity. Integrity means the person who are willing to change the data should be a owner of that data. So people who are not owner of the data should not be have a privileges to change that informations. So integrity needs to be managed. So if any things occurs, okay, if unauthorized person who is accessing the unrelevant data, okay, unauthorized data, who is accessing the data and is trying to modifying the data, it has to be intimated and it has to be protected and it has to be denied not to access the data. So that type of concepts, okay, that means protecting the unauthorized persons to change the informations is called as integrity. So in that cases we get an option of identifying the person who is wearing the data. So it's not only the data, even the systems, okay, people who are not authorized person who are willing to change the credentials of the infrastructures is being protected. That means only the administrator persons only can change the infrastructures. Like that we need to give an integrity. Okay, integrity means only authorized persons can modify the data, unauthorized persons are unable to access the data as well as the systems. Okay, that will be done. So third one is we need to make our system or data availability at all the time, okay, without any disturbance. Okay, the main purpose of that information is that only, right? The data which we are providing should be made available all the time for the authorized users, and also the data which we are sharing should be a reliable means accurate. There should not be a wrong information should be shared. Okay, only the correct information should be shared, and the information shared should be done at the timely fashion. All these operations, that means making our data as well as the system confidential, that means only authorized users can access, and making our data and system should be integrity, that means only authorized persons only can able to change the informations and unauthorized persons are not allowed to change the informations. And for authorized persons, the information should be available at the relevant time, as well as the information which is shared to the authorized person should be error free without having any error informations. Okay, all these should be performed accountable. Okay, accountable. So accountable means like the data, the person who is willing to access the particular informations or data should be authorized. Okay, authorized, and each data who has used should be kept some accounts. Okay, that means in all the event and the operations which is been occurred in the storage area networks should be kept with the log events, kept in the form of log events. Okay, who has been logged into the system and how much time he has spent the data, and what data he has accessed and what data he has modified, and how much time he has spent the time in accessing the data. Every information should be accountable when we are performing the operations. For these we need to perform some standardizations. Okay, standardizations. This standardization is nothing but security standards. Okay, we need to follow some standards. Okay, and also we need to follow some procedures. We need to follow some procedures, and also some control operation needs to be done while we are accessing data, authorized accessing the relevant data, and also we are integrating the data, and also availability of the data needs to be done along with the standard procedures and standard controls we have to perform the operations. This is regarding the information security frameworks. How do we perform the information security framework? How do we develop a information security frameworks? Information security frameworks will be developed by using some goals. What are the goals? The data and the system are the infrastructures or the components which we are used in the storage area network should be users along with confidentiality, along with integrity, along with the availability. So all these operations should be accountable in the form of monitoring softwares. That's what actually we have discussed in the previous class. Okay, so in the last topic. Okay, so this is regarding one aspect. Next, we need to understand what do you mean by risk triad. Okay, so the risk triad is the concept of identifying the errors occurs while we are managing our information in a secured fashion. Okay, so we need to identify something called risk triads. Risk triad. So risk triad means it is the identifying the risk occurs in the securing our information in the data centers. So to perform that, we need to identify the operations, risk operation in terms of threads. Okay, in terms of threads. Thread is a uninterrupt operations. Okay, so it's a abnormal operations which will be occurs in the infrastructures. Okay, that we need to identify it. Sometimes the thread is also called as an attackers. Okay, so both are the same. So that means the people who are not a authorized persons will be accessing willing to access the data as an authorized persons. Okay, so such person needs to be identified, and he can affect our availability of the data, and he can affect the integrity of our data, and he can affect our authority confidentiality of the data. Okay, those people, those attackers needs to be identified before the causes occurs. Okay, that is one of the criteria called risk. That is one of the criteria called risk triads. Risk triads. Okay, this is one thing. So whenever we perform such type of operations, that means identifying the threads which is violating our framework, security frameworks. Okay, so we are look into the attacks will be done for the assets. So what do you mean by assets? Assets means the informations. Okay, the informations which we are storing in the data centers is the attacks. Okay, these not only the information, even the hardware components as well as the software component is also called as an asset while we are managing, while we are securing the operations. To perform that, we need to get some objectives. We need to follow some rules and regulations. Okay, so that means we need to identify the authorized users, and we need to give a unique ID for the authorized users, and we need to identify the potential attackers. We need to identify the potential attackers. These are the possible way we can tackle the attacks like that. Sometimes the unauthorized authorized users only will be made to use you not to use the attacks, okay, not to use the attacks like that. So sometimes for that we need to follow some rules that we will discuss in the next classes. Okay, and the third type of risk triad is vulnerability. Okay, vulnerability means the person who performs the operations will be done as a regular operations. For example, the person who is doing the operations, who is accessing the data, will be acting like a authorized operations, but he is not an authorized person. Unauthorized person is acting like a authorized persons and accessing the informations. Okay, security frameworks. Okay, either it may be a confidentiality, integrity, or security. All these will be done as like he as the person who is having all authority. Such type of things is called as vulnerability. Vulnerability means the person who is accessing the information as if it is the authorized persons. In the same way they are accessing, right? Such things is called as vulnerability. Okay, these are the three factors we have to look whenever we are understanding the risk triads. Risk triad is nothing but, vulnerability is nothing but a person who is trying to compromise the security frameworks, so that he can act like an attackers for the breaking the security frameworks. So this is regarding the risk triads. This we will discuss in detail regarding what do you mean by threats. So, and in that thread, how do we classify the threat? So how do we make our threats to be avoided? What are the different types of threats? We will discuss in the coming classes. Thank you so much.